Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio. Today we are talking about Cowboy Bebop again, and specifically, John Cho didn't know Cowboy Bebop was so influential before being cast. In a recent interview, Cho admits he wasn't aware of the original anime's influence before he was cast as Spike Spiegel in the Netflix adaptation. Now, to be fair, unless if you're like a real anime fan, you're not gonna be that familiar with Cowboy Bebop. The show came out in 1998. This video is releasing in 2021, so we're talking 23 years later, and, now we're getting a live-action series, because the last thing Cowboy Bebop related that came out was the movie in 2001, so even right there, we're talking, 20 years ago now. But before I tangent for too long, John Cho did not know that Cowboy Bebop was so influential before he joined the cast of Netflix's live-action adaptation of Spike Spiegel. Releasing on November 19th, the series will adapt the 1998 anime that follows the crew of bounty hunters on board the starship Bebop in the year 2071. The original series is widely critically acclaimed, with critics believing it is responsible for introducing anime to a whole new generation of Western viewers. Since Netflix announced it would be developing the series in November 2018, many eyes have been on the project and its development. The series will be developed by Andre Nemec and written by Christopher Yost. Is it Yost or Yost? I don't remember, but I think Christopher Yost was one of the writers on Thor Ragnarok. With original anime director Shinichiro Watanabe serving as a creative consultant, and anime composer Yoko Kanno returning to work on the series' soundtrack. Many were excited to hear that some of the original creators were involved in the project due to the series' reputation, yet Cho, who audiences got a first look at in costume recently, was unaware of the anime's influence before he took the role. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to get this out of the way. The original anime director, Shinichiro Watanabe, serving as a creative consultant, I really hate to break this to most people, but that doesn't mean dick. Basically, a creative consultant means that you can give your thoughts and ideas on where the series is going, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with the showrunner and the network. So, Shinichiro Watanabe is basically just there as marketing and nothing more. In an interview about the upcoming series with Vulture, Cho was asked if he was a fan of the original anime. Cho answered that he wasn't, unlike Keanu Reeves. Having been introduced to the series after being impressed with the script for the first episode of the Netflix series, after this, he watched the original series, finding it to be one of the most unique pieces of entertainment that he had ever seen. Afterward, he called Anish I'm gonna butcher the hell out of this name too. Anish Chagatni, director of Searching that Cho starred in, discussing the offer with him before Chagatni urged him to take the role, stating he wasn't aware how big the role would be, and here's what John Cho said, quote, "I didn't know it. The first thing I read and fell in love with was our episode 1 script, which I thought was really brilliant, and I thought, what the hell is this? And then I investigated the anime and just thought it was the most unique piece of entertainment I'd seen in a long time. The combination of genres, characters, the music. I called Anish Chagatni, who directed Searching, to talk about it. Are you aware of a show called Cowboy Bebop? I've got this offer to do an adaptation of this anime. I remember him telling me, you have to do it. I didn't realize what a big deal it was." End quote. Cho was announced as Spike Spiegel in April 2019, joining Mustafa Shakir and Daniela Pineda as fellow bounty hunters, Jet Black and Faye Valentine, with Alex Hassel taking the role of Vicious, Spike's arch enemy, and hitman for the Red Dragon Crime Syndicate. The show's production was briefly paused for 8 months from October 2019 when Cho suffered a knee injury and had to recover. Cho thanked fans for their support following the incident on Instagram, promising to be back to work on the show as soon as possible. Some groups of fans are overly protective of the original anime. Well, that's fans of any anime ever, because and I said this in my first Cowboy Bebop video, because is the fact that every single live action adaptation of any anime has never worked out. So the fact that, fans are very overly protective of the original anime, it makes sense given, how disastrous Ghost in the Shell was. And I even brought it up that I think the only one that truly worked was 2008 Speed Racer, but nobody saw that because it was marketed to the wrong demographic at that time. But anyway, getting back to this, some groups of fans are overly protective of the original anime, with Pineda recently having to respond to backlash over her take on the character of Faye in comparison to how she appeared in the anime. And I will get to that. In a later video. Despite these fans' fears, it is clear that the Netflix adaptation is in good hands. From Pineda's perfect response regarding her character to show's recent interview, I actually disagree with Pineda's response to the backlash. You would have been better off just letting bygones be bygones. Again, I already did a whole video on that. It is evident that the cast is passionate about the project they've worked on, despite being unfamiliar with the original work. Cho was so impressed with the first episode script that he watched the original series to get a further understanding. Well, no shit, but that's also part of his job is to do his research. You're going to be in an adaptation of something. It's best to be familiar with the original. This shows that Cho is now familiar with the character of Spike to fully capture what made the original bounty hunter so iconic. Pair this news with Watanabe and Kano returning, and it's clear that there is a lot of care invested in Netflix's Cowboy Bebop. I disagree with that. Like I said, Watanabe is basically just there as marketing, and Kano, I think he's really working on the score. That's not just a marketing gimmick, but Watanabe completely is. So pretty much, am I disappointed that John Cho was unfamiliar with Cowboy Bebop before coming on and taking on the role? No, not really, because like I said, unless if you were a big anime fan, you were not going to know what Cowboy Bebop was, unless if you happened to be around back in the early 2000s and were watching Adult Swim at the time. Given that Cowboy Bebop did not air on Toonami, it actually aired on Adult Swim. So Cowboy Bebop was on that, well, it's still on Cartoon Network, but the Adult Swim block, it's basically as close to mainstream as Cowboy Bebop could have gotten without being on Cartoon Network itself. But I don't think every actor has to be familiar with, everything that they do. Now, obviously, once they get cast, then yes, they probably should be, researching the role that they're taking up, especially if you're doing a live action adaptation of anime. Like, you have to expect that there is going to be backlash one way or another. And guys, that's pretty much all I got for you. If you stuck around this long, thanks so much for doing so. If you've been following me for a while, I'm terrible at ending these, so I will just see you guys next time.